Hello class and welcome to my web design class. My name is Ahmed Gagaman. I will be your teacher for this course and I hope you'll enjoy it. Today's lesson is about cascading style sheet and using the different types of positioning in cascading style sheet. As we all know, cascading style sheet is a style sheet language used for describing the look and formatting of a document written in a markup language. Some of the advantages of using cascading style sheet is we can control the layout of many documents from the single style sheet and more precise control of the layout and apply different layout to different media types. Types of positioning. We have 4 different kinds of positioning in positioning the elements in cascading style sheet. The first one is static, then relative, then fixed, and absolute. Elements are positioned using the properties top, bottom, left, and right. Let's look at some of the hands-on exercises. The keyword is used in this case, the word position. It means location. So if you set your position to static, HTML elements are positioned static by default all the time. But in this case, static positioned elements are not affected by top, bottom, left, or right properties. An element with position static is not positioned in any special way. It is always positioned according to the normal flow of the page. And to do that, I have created here div.static. I created a class, named it static, in a section called, or a box called div, beginning the definition of that box by setting the position to static, then creating a border of 3 pixel solid type and a color. To try it, to see how it looks, here you go, the same codes within the HTML. After the HTML tag, I used a head tag, and within the head tag, I used the tag style to include the static style sheet. And then I defined which position I want. I set it up to static, and then the border is 3 pixels with the solid, then and the definition of the word static, the class, then and the style tag by putting the / style. The outcome of it is, as you can see, this div element has position static. I created a position that is static. It's an element with the position static. It's not positioned in a special way. It's always positioned according to the normal flow of the website. Okay, let's go back and see the second part, or second type of positioning, and that is relevant. An element with the position relevant is positioned relevant to its normal position, setting up top, bottom, left, and right properties of a relatively positioned element will cause it to be adjusted away from its normal position. Other content will not be adjusted to fit into the gap left by the element. And to do that, same thing, div.relative. Notice I used a meaningful relevant name for my box, and I named it relative. Begin, the keyword position, colon, relative, semicolon, terminating the line, then setting the left to 30 pixel and the border to 3 pixel, and so on. Let's see the codes, what they do when we execute them. Here we go. We created a box using the position relative. As we said, when you select the relative type, it's positioned relative to its normal position. And then I set the left to 30 pixel. Here we go, 30 pixel, in case if I change it to, for example, 130, and see the result, it moved away to 130 from the left. And then the border is 3 pixel and so on. In case you don't like to use those hexa numbers and you don't remember them, you can use the keyword for the colors, main colors that is, such as red. There you go, we see the red, and that covers the relative type. Now the next type that we need to look into is the fixed type. From the word fixed, it's self-explanatory. That means non-movement. Non-movement. An element with the position fixed is positioned relative to the viewpoint, which means that it always stays in the same place even if the page is scrolled, whichever way you go, top, bottom, left, and right. A fixed element does not leave a gap in the page where it would normally have been located. Notice the fixed element in the lower right hand side of the box. Let's see how we do it using the position type fixed. The bottom is set to 0, right is 0, the width is 300 pixels, and the border is 3 pixels wide. Let's see how the code looks like. Here are the syntax of the codes. Position is fixed, and so on and so forth. And notice where the box is on the lower right hand side. So if you scroll it on the page, it will stay in the same location. That's what the position fixed mean. The last type is an absolute. An element with the position absolute is positioned relative to the nearest position ancestor, instead of positioned relative to the viewpoint like the fixed. However, if an absolute positioned element has no positioned ancestors, it uses the document body and moves along with the page scrolling. A positioned element is one whose position is in anything except static. Here's a sample. The div element has positioned relative. The div element has a position of an absolute. Okay, and these are the codes for both positions. A relative with a 400 box pixels width, and then the height, and then the border, and then the absolute with 80 pixels from the top, 0 from the right, and so on. Let's see how it looks. This is the outcome of the codes. An element with position absolute is positioned relative to the nearest positioned ancestor instead of positioned relative to the viewpoint like fixed. This covers the 4 types of positioning and cascading style sheet. I hope you enjoyed the class, and if anybody has a question, please raise your hand. If you'd like me to repeat any certain type of positioning, we'll take more examples on a handout sheet to practice further and detect how much you grasped out of the lecture. And if you need any other help, you can reach me through an email or office hours. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a good learning lesson. Thank you.